John Lennon and Paul McCartney, they wrote a song, and it says it's getting better all the time, and that's Paul's contribution. And John goes, it can't get much worse. But what I think is it is actually, I see we have a lot of challenges, but I do see things as getting so much better. And for example, during the Civil War, can you imagine how many of them just shot them? They're like, I'm not going to do this. This is crazy. But anyway, so my uncle came back to the house, great uncle, and the slaves had gone, so he's starting to tend the cows, and he gets in the field, and he doesn't know what he's doing, and a bull gores him in the hip, and so he has a broken hip back in the 1800s. So they set him up upstairs in the house with like a hook lever to get him into the bathtub. He shot himself. He wouldn't have shot himself if we had hip replacement surgery. See, it wasn't here yet. That couldn't happen. And then I had a great aunt too, and I don't know what was wrong. She's a librarian. But she shot herself. I think she was depressed, melancholy, and there was no help. There was no counseling, no therapy, no medication, and it was terrible. Everybody was upset about it. But, nowadays we're developing medications, and there's a lot more openness in sharing with people that you suffer. You've been in the psychiatric hospital, and I see it getting better, much better, but we still have to push forward. We need art therapy in the public schools to serve our communities with that type of therapy in the households, and then also prevent some of the violence in prison and things like that. Art therapy is a wonderful thing, and I don't know why we wouldn't have them as part of the team. I guess one thing that bothers me is the poor neighborhoods. Oftentimes the grandparents lived in segregation and didn't get the education that they should have gotten. And then everybody's still suffering in a poor neighborhood from that. And they cut programs in school. And then you wonder why the kids are getting in trouble and they don't know how to swim. It's not the kids' fault. This is a community thing. I like the book Stone Soup, and I'm not communist, but I'm like, we could chip in as neighbors and community and try to figure out where we can make it better for our friends and our neighbors. I went to the churches. They don't seem to have the ability. I think Joseph Campbell would be an excellent church. I would join that church, and if I had money, I would support it. Joseph Campbell was just a genius of religion and mythology. Worth listening to. Very much worth listening to. So yeah, psychiatric's coming along. We need a blossom in our schools. We need the literature and the arts. We need the STEM. We need brain health to be a STEM class. We need gardening. I think kids would love that, to come to school and do scientific exploration of growing their own vegetables and fruits, and maybe even having chickens. They would love it, and then they could cook it up for their friends. It's science, and why wouldn't we teach them how to eat healthy? That's a huge part of what STEM is taking care of oneself and community. And one way we can do that is by food. Food is essential and necessary. And we need to learn the components of it. I've met too many people that don't know. And they grow up a certain way, and then they become obese because they don't know, experimentation about how to cook things and stuff like that. My mom used to put butter in everything, and for the longest time, it took her a long time to not cook vegetables with butter. I said, Mom, they're good without butter. The roots are the family and community, which gives us a meaning for our jobs, besides just having money, which money's fun to blow, but only if you're helping somebody, If you're just blowing it on drugs, you're setting yourself up for misery. And the roots, yeah, and then the leaves are the sports and physical fitness. And in the poor neighborhoods, we need to make sure they can have the opportunity to swim on swim teams in the summers through a nonprofit school program, and learn how to swim well. And some of them might get scholarships. They might do it year round. But to have our neighbors not know how to swim, I don't know how you could sleep at night knowing you have that money for your BMW and your $400,000 house, and that their school systems are suffering because they're poor and they don't have the money for the school systems. But in the United States, we do. We need to reappropriate the money to make sure these kids get the education they need. Sir Ken Robinson, all the teachers in university could learn about him and then make some decisions about what kind of changes they want in our school system. Thank you, Ellie Ellis.